Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to explain to you how to use increment and decrement operators in Java. So when I say increment and decrement operator, I mean that how do you use plus plus operator or minus minus operator or plus equals or let's say minus equals. So we'll go look at all of these by example and then you will understand how it works in Java. So let's start by using very simple example. So let's say I have a variable called toys, which stores number of toys that I have, and I'm going to give it initial value 10. And if someone says, Arpit, can you please add 1 to it? So the first thing comes in my mind is let's just add 1 to the variable. That's very simple. So we will say take the existing variable value, add 1 to it, and then store it back to the same variable. And if I print that out, you will see that it did increment by 1. So let me say current value and then variable itself. And if I execute this program, you will see that it is 11. So that means by writing this line, we did add 1 to that variable name. Now that you know this is the default way of thinking, Java do provide increment operator which can let you do that with less line of code or number of text you have to write. So how do you do that? So you just basically add plus plus sign. So if I add plus plus sign after, and if I comment out our original method, you will see that the value of end toys will still increment by 1. So if I execute this program again, and you see it's still 11. So basically these line and these line does exactly same thing. Now let me discuss the very important point which seem to confuse most of the new people. So the increment operator, depending on where do you put this plus plus sign, it does behave differently. But the way I have written the example here, it might not present itself that way. So you can actually write plus plus sign after the variable name, or you can write plus plus sign before the variable name. And as you can see, compiler is not throwing any error. That means they both are valid. And if I comment out our original one and execute this program, you will see that the answer is still 11. So what is confusing here, then what's the difference? So to explain that to you, let me give you explanation first and then I will show you by example. So in increment and decrement operator, there is a thing called pre-processing and a post-processing. So if you see these example here, this is called post-processing. Now what do I mean by that? So that means if you say plus plus after the variable name, what you are essentially saying that I would like you to increment this variable after it gets used once, right? And I will show you the example so it will become very clear later on. And if I again talk about definition only, then this is a pre-processing. So what does it mean by that? That means when I add operator sign before the variable name, please process the variable before it gets used. So let me show you with an example. So first let's find out what is that we mean by usage. So if we take this print line, when we say print the toy value, we are actually using the variable, right? So if I, instead of doing these addition and subtraction beforehand, if I do it right here, that means we will see the actual difference between pre-processing and post-processing. So let's start with post-processing, right? So when I say plus sign here, what I'm saying is when this variable is being called, don't increment it, first use it, that means it will print that variable, and then increment it by 1. So if we want to see that it incremented or not, we have to again print that variable, don't do any processing then. So expected result is if we just take post processing as an example, that it will remain 10 here, and then it will process it and increment it by 1. So that means the second time when we print variable, it should be 11. So let me execute this program if you don't believe me. As you see, the first time around it was only 10, and then it got incremented by 1. So this is called post processing. That means very first time when you use variable, do not process it and then add 1 to it, right? Let me show you the pre-processing. So pre-processing means you add plus sign before variable name. That means you do process variable before it gets used. So I am expecting these value to be 11 when it printed, and second time around it will also remain 11 because we don't want to do anything after that. So as you see, they both are 11. If you still don't understand it, please look at that video again, because it's very important, and this is where all the new people gets confused. And when you are writing complex program, these will become sort of a bug that you have to debug, right, if you don't use it properly. Now the same way you can do that for decrement operator. So instead of using plus sign, you can see negative sign, right? So again, same law applies. There is a pre-processing and a post-processing. So if you use pre-processing, that means it will subtract 1 from 10 at the very first usage, and then the second time it will also remain same. So it will be 9 and 9 in both answers. So if we run it again, you can see they both are 9. And if we use post-processing, it will remain 10 for the first time around, and the second time it will subtract it, so it will be 9. So as you can see, there you go, it's 10 and then 9. So now you know how to use increment and decrement operators. Now let me talk about another increment operator. So if you look at the limitation of these, you can only increment value by 1. So what if you want to add more than 1, like 5, let's say? So there is another method which you can use. So let me delete these ones. So let's say if someone says, can we add 5 to the variable? And our typical way is, again, as we shown before, you say 5. Now Java has a way to also do that in a shortcut way. So if I execute this one, I expect 15, which is right there. Now how do you do that using shortcut? So what you can say end choice plus equals 5. Now as you can see, if you do it this way, it will save you writing that variable name again. So all you're doing is moving this plus sign just before equal sign, and then you put the value that you want to add, right? So if I comment out the original line and execute this program again, as you can see, it's still adding 5 to it. So that's a shortcut. Now you can do the same thing for subtraction. So let's say I do subtract 5, and let's comment out the original one. So you will see it will subtract 5 from 10, which is 5. You can also do the same thing for, let's say, multiplication. Oops. So multiplication star, and comment out the original, and you will see that 10 times 5 is 50, and that's the answer. So there you go, guys. You now know all the increment operator, decrement operator, and the usages of that. If you would like to know more about Java, please keep watching my tutorials. Don't forget to subscribe if you would like to be notified for my next upcoming videos. Thank you for your time. See you later.